The FIFA Women's World Cup was a tremendous tournament. How important do you think it's been in relation to today, and how important would it prove to be as women's football grows?
I think the Women's World Cup this year was absolutely phenomenal. In terms of an advert for just how good women's football is and how far women's football has progressed over the last few years, absolutely amazing, right? And of course, this year, if you're a video gaming fan, FIFA 16 features some women's teams this year. That goes to show you just how far women's football has progressed. Now, with this being so close to the Women's FA Cup final, in terms of the Women's World Cup final being so close to the Women's FA Cup final, I think it's absolutely massive. You're going to have so much more interest from youngsters just like these, right, that actually watched the Women's World Cup, now wanting to watch the Women's FA Cup as well. So it can only lead to bigger and better things for women's football.
On the back of the World Cup, England doing so well, it's just such a good time to be part of the women's game. At the moment it's just growing and growing and growing, and yeah, hopefully next year we can be back here again.
With it being so close after the Women's World Cup, of course, do you think that this is going to lead to even more interest in the women's game?
Yeah, it probably will. After the way they performed, I think England have performed fantastically. They deserve to get through to that semi-final. Shame they couldn't get to the final, but they all put in an effort.
With the women's games, do you think that this should be the way that it goes now, with more games being shown on the BBC?
Yeah. Because it's unfair if all of boys football for time being saying girls don't.
Do you think women's football would ever be the same as men's football in terms of equality?
I think in terms of equality, that has to be the aim. I think if we're not looking to have it on a level playing field, then we're really having the wrong discussion, right? Women's rights are just as important as men's and animals, right? So I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be the case. As far as I'm concerned, that's what the end goal has to be. As I say, I think there has to be equal pay in men and women's football and equal coverage and exposure. Where do you see women's football being in about 5 years' time? Do you think it's going to be as big as the men's game?
Yes, I do think it is going to be as big as the men's game, but I just think it will not be played as much.
Not be played as much? As in on TV, you mean?
Yeah.
So speaking of exposure, where do you see women's football being in 5 years or so?
If we carry on the rate that we're going, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. I think if you look back 3 years ago yesterday, we were in the stadium for Team GB against Brazil in front of 70,000 people, and that just really kicked it all off. And from that point, we just haven't looked back. Really.
Yes, use a metaphor, but hopefully that keeps the ball rolling. So
It's a good metaphor.
I think it will. I think with the exposure it's getting and the way the girls are playing, it can only go up from here, hopefully.
And did you know that today's game was being shown live on the BBC? It was on BBC One. Did you know that? Yeah. So do you think that going forward, that more things like that will be important in terms of raising awareness of the women's game?
Yeah.
So other people can know. Other people can know that it's women's football and stuff, not only men's.
It also encouraged like little girls to find their sport, to find their real sport, as in football.
Do you think that with exposure on the BBC and obviously the WSL on BT Sport, do you think that we'll see even larger attendances for the Women's FA Cup going forward?
Yeah, I think it would be, yeah. So I remember the women's game I went on, England versus Germany friendly.
Yeah.
That was big, about 50,000 apparently.
Yeah.
It was.
Do you think that the Women's FA Cup final could reach that level in the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, it will be, yeah. All the girls come and all the boys watching too, like that.
The BBC were actually covering this game on BBC One. How huge is that for fans of women's football?
Being on BBC One is really, really big. I think we saw that with the World Cup as well. They put the game on BBC One, even though it was at midnight. But it's still just such a massive platform, free to view TV. You can't get much better than that. Traditionally, the BBC have shown this cup final. It's normally on, I think, BBC Two. But yeah, BBC One is a massive, massive platform. So
can't say more than that. I think the more people that are exposed to women's football, the better. So this is the best. Everyone loves the FA Cup, so having that on BBC One is awesome.
Do you feel that given today's game here at Wembley today, that we'll see more women's finals played at Wembley Stadium?
Yes, it will be.
I think if it's big enough and this game is big enough, have it at Wembley Stadium. I'm surprised personally that there aren't more women's national teams games being played at Wembley Stadium. If the men can have the stadium, the women can have the stadium. It's about the support. It's about all of these fans here. It's about you. It's about me. And even bigger than that, it's just about football. And football should be at the home of football. And the home of football is over there, Wembley Stadium. With it essentially coming so close after the success of the Women's World Cup, do you think that, interest in women's football will grow significantly as a result of today's final?
I do. I think you're correct. I think the interest now across all media outlets will be massive, and as long as they keep pushing that, it will just progress.